Now, there has to be a regulatory body at the national level that regulates and sanctions the activities of the various state police. They cannot order any weapon that they want. Every weapon that is supposed to be ordered by any state police has to go to the federal authority to make sure that they are only ordering those equipment that can be used in law enforcement and not to carry out any kind of insurgency of that nature. Now, going back to what you are saying, you see, this country has to look at its structure from foundation. If it doesn't, it must be forced to do it. If you look at those states that you mentioned, look at how those states were created. Somebody sat down here in Abuja, used a biro, and tore the country into pieces without considering the cultural affinity of the people that they're lumping together. Now, the people are sitting down and killing themselves. That is why those of us who are proponents of restructuring and those of us who have been campaigning for the 2014 National Confab report to be implemented, that is why we continue to agitate for it. Because if you go into that document, it had recommended creation of additional 18 states. And I know people are going to say those states are not going to be viable, blah, 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 blah. They won't have any. That is nonsense. Because I have seen some little tiny islands, like Tortilla, British Columbia, a very small island, that doesn't have anything. The number one resources you have to succeed as a state is the people. If you train them, if you empower them, they will be productive and they will pay tax.
But that's just it.
Now, let me finish. Let me finish, right? If you look at that recommendation of the 2014 National Confab, they went into those minorities that you're talking about that are lumped into those states and extracted them from there and merged them with their counterparts in the other states so that you can have that cultural uniformity and you put them in that state and remove them from those other majority that have been oppressing them. The problem we have is the oppression of the minority by the majority in this country. The majority does not seem to listen to the minorities of Nigeria.
Ultimately, you would agree with me that there are more than 18 ethnic minorities in this country. So even if you create the 18 states, there are going to be several tribes within the states that are still not going to be represented by the creation of a new state. And I want to ask you, because if you look at the situation as it is right now,
yes,
and you adopt that, if you have a federal police and a state police,
correct.
Just look at what happened yesterday, for example, with the the Nigeria Police Force and the representative of the state government. If you have a state governor saying, look, the federal government is not going to help us, they're not going to help us. My people, defend yourselves against the federal government because they're just not going to help against these people because the federal government is going to step in. You could potentially have an armed war between a federal police and a state police. Are you not concerned about that?
No, not at all. Not at all. I must tell you that I was dismayed by what played out here yesterday. First and foremost, the police public relations spokesperson or public relations officer didn't conduct himself in a very highly professional manner. There's absolutely no reason for him to get in an argument context with a citizen that on whose tax that his salary is being paid. I didn't see anything there that the Benue representative said that would have even warranted him to respond. If I were in his position, I would simply just ignore whatever he was saying and just focus on making my point. But let me tell you, we are not the most diverse country on the planet. There is nothing we are doing in this country that we are reinventing the wheel. Anything we do in this country has been done somewhere else. All we have to do is to go to those places that these things are done and that they are working, study them, and bring them back to our country and domesticate them here. There is nothing, absolutely nothing we can do in Nigeria, no policy, nothing that we can do in this country today that is going to be brand new. They have been done somewhere and they have been working.
I don't quite get the point when you say that because people of diverse ethnic groups were lumped together, that's the reason why they are fighting. So for a lot of people, they say that's simplistic. If indeed it's because these people whom we hear, I mean, we've heard about how herdsmen have lived with farmers for many years.
Okay.
Even the itinerant herdsmen will come every now and again. You know, they already have a certain route which they usually follow. People are wondering, is this matter not is it not more complex than a farmer-herdsman clash?
It is. It's a very complicated matter. There is economics to it. There is environmental to it. And we have all made all these points. Okay, there's desertification in certain parts of the north. So you see the herders moving downward towards the south where they can find, you know, greener pastures. There's equally this issue of urbanization. The population is grown. way larger than what it used to be. So they are competing for the same resources, which is land. The land is not expanding, it's static. So what we have to do is to find new and better ways of doing all these things, which is ranching. Now, if you go to the 2014 National Confab report, and I keep making reference to it, it is equally there. That is why I supported that report. I would pick that report over this APC report, because that report was very, very, very extensive. It covered almost every aspect of our life, as to compare to this new report that was just recently released. It didn't mention it. All these things we're talking right now were not mentioned in this report.
As you say so, you would probably acknowledge that there was 100 billion naira that was released during that administration for the purpose of ranching, of which we know that money was squandered. What is really the solution if we talk about ranching? How do we now implement it in view of what has happened in the past?
We have to. You see, if you bring out 1 trillion in Nigeria as it is today, it will be squandered. It will be squandered, and trust me, you may not even know how it got squandered, because our central government is too large. We have a federal government that has over 600 federal agencies that it takes about 3 trillion naira to service it. How do you control it? There is no human being that will become our president today, as structured today, that is not going to underperform. How do you manage 600 and something federal agencies? It's impossible. So what we have to do is that we have to reduce the size of our central government. Our federal government is bigger than that of the United States. And America is more than 2 times our population and over 15 times our size in land mass. But our government is larger than their government. We have more senators in this country than they have in America. So if you look at these things, reduce the size of the central government, let the central government focus on its primary responsibility, which is protection of lives and property, provide oversight, border security, international relations, all those things. When you narrow them and remove our federal government from running universities and the secondary schools and primary schools, and the other day there was a bill that was passed for establishment of farm settlements across the country. Are you kidding me? Who's going to run them?
Just wondering, though, you talked about how we should be ranching. Now, some people have said that the problem is also with the implementation of the law in Benue State. Benue State has said, we believe that ranching is the way to go, and a lot of people will agree with them. But when people ask, the manner in which this law has been couched, doesn't it also have some underlying problems? So, for instance, if you want to, get a permit to get a ranch, you can only get a lease. You cannot buy land in Benue State for ranching. The lease will only last for a year, which you constantly have to renew. Do you think that the circumstances are right for any rancher, be they Fulani, be they whatever ethnic stock, to come to Benue and actually, ranch their cattle?
Well, see, we can use this Benue as a case study. I for a person, and this is my personal opinion, I think that the Benue people should have somehow made provisions for interim ranching or grazing field, while a much more permanent provision is made. A lot of people have said that cattle rearing is a private business. I do agree with them. But a lot of the things that we do as individuals in this country are all personal. They're all private.
Well, now, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts. I will let you expatiate more on that answer when we come back from this break. Please stay with us.